Marvel Rivals seems to be a hot commodity nowadays. I've played it. It's great. This game is just all around a fun time. Great maps, great characters, and oh, you don't like Marvel? Well, what are you into? DC? Oh, so basically what you're saying is if Marvel Rivals was a different IP, you'd play it? Oh, well, what if it was... That's right, baby. What if Ben 10 had its own Marvel Rivals? Now, I'm not talking just different Ben 10 characters. I mean the aliens. You get to play as your own individual alien. No Ben, no Omnitrix cooldown, just you playing the alien you like. I'll come up with a few ideas for how I think the game would be pretty fun and how the aliens would play. Without further ado, here's the video.
Recognize any of these guys? Although under the circumstances, this one looks pretty good.
Swampfire duelist. For his primary fire, flamethrower. If you ever played Mei from Overwatch, you should already know how this kind of works. Swampfire would have both of his hands sticking out and just shooting a constant stream of fire, while his secondary fire would be him throwing methane bombs.
It'd probably look like the same thing Groot throws, you know, those weird little plant bomb things, but instead it would be more like a gas.
I'm thinking maybe two methane bombs before you have to reload or cooldown or some shit. But if you combo the flamethrower and the methane bombs, that deals more damage to the enemy and pushes them back. Also, you can use it as a movement tech for Swampfire. So methane bomb and then flamethrower, it would basically boost you up anywhere you're looking. So if you're pushing in too hard, you could get out by just throwing down a methane bomb and then a quick flamethrower. E ability, fireballs. Certain things that flamethrowers just can't get to. So fireballs would be a nice way to reach those flying enemies up top. So Swampfire would shoot out 2 fireballs at the same time. And you can still set off your methane bombs with the fire too. And this attack would be way stronger than your flamethrower. Shift ability. I wanted to implement for Swampfire a balance between plant and fire. So for his shift ability, I'm thinking he throws down seed traps that can snare anyone who gets caught in it. So kind of like how Mantis throws out her sleep, that's how his seed bombs would be, but on impact, it would trap someone with vines. And if it lands on the ground and someone walks over it, then they would also get trapped. It was a little hard coming up with Swampfire's ultimate, so I took some inspirations from the video game. So what I was thinking is Swampfire turns into ultimate Swampfire, jumps in the air, and comes down with a giant fire explosion. I thought it looked pretty good from the game, so why not just implement it as his ultimate? And as a cool passive ability, I always liked how Swampfire could just like be immune to a lot of attacks. So I was thinking he would become immune to all damage taken when his health is reduced to 0. And to be fair, it would probably last about 3 seconds with a really long cooldown because, you know, that wouldn't be fair.
Brainstorm!
Strategist. I was thinking for Brainstorm's primary fire, he would shoot a lightning bolt from his brain that can chain attack at least 3 enemies. So basically like Storm's chain lightning, but that's just his primary fire, and it only connects to 3 people, you know, to make it fair. And for his secondary fire, I was thinking he places a tiny storm cloud over the heads of his teammates for healing. Again, there are going to be some creative liberties taken because not a lot of people do exactly what they do in the comics in Marvel Rivals. So you got to make it fun. E ability. So for his E ability, he'd be able to place an electromagnetic bubble around himself that reflects projectiles and heals himself. And for his shift, it would do the exact same, but for his allies, minus the heal. And for his ultimate, I really like this one. I would make him cast a storm of healing rain and damage lightning. So any ally caught in it would be healed and any enemy inside of it would get damaged. Kind of like Cloak and Dagger's ult, but it looked cooler. And for his passive ability, I'd want him to levitate in his ult. Oh, y'all didn't know that? Yeah, so Brainstorm can actually use telekinesis to levitate himself. So I want to kind of show off some of the aliens' powers that don't get really talked about as much. That's why I made Swampfire's passive the way it is. So I think that this would be really cool for Brainstorm, for him to be able to show off powers that you don't really get to see. Humongousaur, Vanguard. I would assume most people saw this coming. Let's get into it. So for his primary fire, I'm thinking just a couple of punches. Nice right hook, left hook, you know, like basic standard punches. For his secondary fire, I'm thinking a nice little boulder toss. So kind of like in the video games where you do a combo and he just winds up his arm and just throws a fucking boulder. Yeah, kind of like that, but obviously one boulder and with a pretty good balanced cooldown. E ability, a tail swipe, kind of just to back people off of him and his friends. So a nice little tail swipe to just back people off. So for a shift ability, I would give him a roar ability to where when he roars around the enemy team, they give off damage reduction. So if you feel as though they're putting too much pressure on your team, using Humongousaur's roar, it would reduce their damage because they're scared of Humongousaur. Pretty cool, huh? For his ultimate, he turns into Ultimate Humongousaur. Kind of like how Hulk turns into Monster Hulk. So when Humongousaur is in his ultimate form, he can do basically some of the same abilities, but instead of him being able to roar, he fires rockets from his hand. Kind of like how Punisher fires his rockets, but a bit more targeted. And you'd be able to control it. This would last about 12 seconds. Make it fair. Kind of like just like Hulk's. Like I said, basically exactly like Hulk's, but better. So for his passive ability, I know everyone's probably thinking, I know you might be thinking, how am I going to implement Humongousaur's growing? So for this, if Humongousaur gets a 5-player kill streak, he has the option to grow in size for 10 seconds. This ability has a 100-second cooldown. And I'm thinking he could be as big as 2 Groot walls. 2 Groot walls? Maybe 3. Maybe 3 Groot walls. And no, he doesn't grow when he's in ultimate form. Does that sound broken? It's Humongousaur. You can't hold back on Humongousaur.
Cut him off from the power grid. And that's the end of that chapter.
Eyeguy, duelist. Primary fire, burst shot, energy eye blast from his elbows. So kind of like this like rapid fire with like Megatron's gun you see right here from Transformers 2, but like coming from his elbows. Secondary fire, his eyes combined into one big eye on his chest and shoots in a giant eye beam, kind of like Iron Man but on the ground. Okay, so for his E ability, I was thinking he could shoot a singular blast, but it has a different energy property. So it's random. So it could be an ice beam, a fire beam, or an electricity beam. Because if you didn't know, Eyeguy in the series has different energy properties from his eyes. He could freeze people, he uses flamethrowers sometimes, or he does use green light. So yeah, something like that. For his shift ability, I'm thinking a nice dodge and evade move, probably like using his eyes on his shoulders to kind of like propel himself left or right, so he can just like get a good dodging motion. Or he's pretty agile, so maybe like roll out of the way. So either one works, rolling out the way or using his eye beams to like propel himself. It depends. Ultimate. Okay, so if you ever play Dragon Ball Z Fighters, Lord Beerus can use all his energy and just puts it out, like just fires out like random ki blasts out everywhere. I want that, but for Eyeguy special. And I'm thinking it would kind of look something like this, but also move around like how Peter Parker and Penny Parker uses Venom's team up ability. So just a big energy blast around, and he can just move around. It's like all of his eyes just shooting everywhere. That would be badass. As for his passive ability, Eyeguy can't be snuck up on, and he can see invisible enemies. So when someone's behind him, he'll automatically ping them. But when someone's in front of him, he can see an outline of an invisible person. Obviously, he can't see them when they go behind a wall, but he can still see them when they're invisible. Because, you know, you can't sneak up on a guy that can see everything.
Really? You're the walking eyeball monster and I scared you?
I know they haven't really showed off him using these type of abilities where he can like see invisible people, but you know, we're exaggerating a little bit with the powers, and I thought that would be fun. Upgrade, strategist. Now for his primary fire, he'd shoot an eye beam. But for his secondary fire, he attaches one arm to an ally for a constant healing streak. Like Mercy, but you know, he can still do things and not be useless. Kind of like how Mr. Fantastic attaches his arm to an enemy. So he'd be able to keep his arm on his ally for a constant healing stream and still be able to shoot. But he'd have to be like kind of close to you. So, you know, you can't go far or go behind a wall and get healed by Upgrade because you'll just get detached. Now, for his E ability, Upgrade will be able to turn into a walking sentry turret and heal and damage. So he'll just shoot bullets that also heal and damage at the same time. So I'd say like not little, but like a pretty good sizable turret that just walks around, you know, shooting, being able to jump and just contribute to the team. So if his regular primary healing doesn't help, you can just turn into a turret and just put out more heals and heal your other teammates. Obviously, this has a cooldown. And for his shift ability, he can just turn into a drone. Just, you know, kind of like transform into a drone. Now, I know Upgrade does need technology around him to upgrade it or turn into it, but obviously we're not going to have like fucking hidden mini turrets around the fucking map just for Upgrade. It would be like it would be really weird. So, like I said, we're exaggerating a little bit and just letting Upgrade turn into these weapons just for the sake of the game. And also, like I said, it's cool. So, he can turn into a drone as a nice little getaway. Just, you know, I think every healer at least needs like some type of getaway or defense to defend themselves. Adam Warlock. So, you know, just a nice little drone. Let him get away. His ultimate ability. Now, this one I was cooking up for a while. So, remember in the Ben 10 Generator Rex special where he upgraded Rex? So, Upgrade becomes a suit of armor around you. He increases your health and your damage. You will basically become a one-man army. But while you're the armor, you will not be able to do anything until your ultimate is over or unless you die. And if the person you're ulting on, if their health reaches 0, you only die. Not the person wearing you. Seems pretty fair. Forearms, Vanguard. So primary fire definitely punches with all of his fists. Just a nice string of punches. Nothing too complicated. But for his secondary fire, he can do 2 claps. And I'm thinking maybe he can have like a clap meter. So if you build up enough damage, it fills up 2 meter bars and that'll give you 2 claps. Excuse me. His E ability, I would give him a spinning lariat. Kind of like a get off me move, and it could also work as a cool combo move. So I'm thinking you hit him with your primary fire with a flurry of punches, then maybe 2 claps, and then you finish them off with a lariat. That's big damage. That's big damage. So shift ability, basically he kind of just like blocks with all of his arms, giving himself a shield. So if you're forearms and you're pushing up and you need to back up a little bit, you could just, you know, block. Kind of like how who does that? Somebody has a blocking ability. Oh, Ramatra. Kind of like how Ramatra blocks to you know, get the damage off of him a little bit. And Forearms, also give him a leap button. So if you hold down space or X if you're playing on PlayStation. So if you're trying to get away, Forearms has also a leap. So, you know, I thought that would be pretty cool, just implementing his jumping, because he does that a lot in the series. And plus I thought it would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, for his ultimate, I think it would be cool if he were to grab one enemy, spin them around, hitting other people around him, and then throwing. So let's say you're on a map like the Wakanda map, and you're at the waterfall on the Wakanda map, and everyone's on point, right? So let's say Forearms grabs one of the strategists, right? So now he's spinning them around, hitting everybody else around, damaging them, and then he throws them off the waterfall. I kind of like alts that single one person out. It's a little petty, but it's pretty funny. So yeah, that's Forearm. It just occurred to me. Imagine you're like trying to stall the fucking point, and the only two people left on is you and the enemy Forearms.
I'm joking! Stop! 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 Stop the brake! Stop! Stop! Stop!
He shoots, he scores!
Feedback. Duelist. I'm thinking for his primary fire, he does laser finger blast, and for his secondary fire, he gives himself an energy absorption shield. So he holds his fingers out, absorbing any type of damage that comes his way. Also, his energy absorption has a meter, and it'll be maxed out at 100. So that's how much energy you can absorb before you have to shoot it back out. His E ability, he can use all the energy he absorbed, and he can distribute it out to his allies and giving them extra damage. So kind of like a support duelist, kind of like how Storm can give everyone like an extra boost of speed or damage. So just to clarify, if feedback absorbs enough energy, he can distribute it to his teammates and make them strong. Or he can make himself stronger by just shooting it back out with his primary fire. Shift ability, he shoots a laser beam at the floor and kind of shoots himself up. So for his ultimate, you know how Sue Storm kind of has her force field push where she can push people out, and like the way it looks when she's aiming? So basically like that's how it looks when you aim in with feedback's ult, but it's bigger and it's a giant blast. So if you ever played like Marvel vs. Capcom and you played like Ryu or Iron Man, they do those giant blasts, kind of something like that, but it's in like one straight line. And it's even stronger if your energy meter is filled up all the way. So basically like a one-hit kill. And for his passive ability, he can heal when energy is absorbed. So let's say you're attacking feedback, while he's absorbing the energy you're putting out, or the damage that you're putting out, he's getting healed by that.
Look out, Fang Face! I'm coming through! Want some of this? I didn't mean literally.
Now this one, you're gonna be surprised at this. Ball Weevil, Vanguard. Now I know it's a little surprising. Now I know, why would this really tiny, small alien be a Vanguard? But let me cook. Ball Weevil would start off in the match with his ball. He would be on top of a giant green ball the entire time. His primary fire would be something like Jeff's primary fire, the way he shoots it out, but it would be his green balls, and they would on impact they would explode. That's his primary. His secondary fire, I was thinking he spits out sticky bombs like from Halo, kind of like the Halo sticky bombs, but also like Penny Parker's landmine. So if they're on the ground and you step on them, they explode. But you can also stick them to people too. For his E ability, Ball Weevil, for his E ability, can detonate the giant ball that he's already on for a really big attack, but for a good getaway too. His shift ability would be to increase his speed on the ball. Kind of like how Wrecking Ball picks up speed, but you wouldn't need to pick up speed. You just automatically just keep rolling faster. Now, his Q ability, if you haven't already detonated the bomb, his Q ability would be to roll the ball out and control it, kind of like a remote controlled RC. So you would be able to control the giant sticky ball around where you want to go and just detonate it. Exactly like Junkrat's tire, but it has the power of Diva's nuke. Tell me that doesn't sound cool. Now, obviously, if you're a ball Weevil and you already detonated your bomb, shoot a little bit and get some damage, or just wait a little bit, and then you'll be right back on your giant ball again. But if you die as ball Weevil on your ball, you're dead. It's only a Bruce Banner Diva situation if you blow up your bomb. But yeah. And like I said before, his passive would just be him being able to regain his ball during the passage of time, or just getting enough damage done. So yeah. Yep, another Vanguard. Blocks. So honestly, I wanted to make Blocks more efficient because, to be honest, Blocks isn't a very good alien. He's definitely just the marketable Lego alien that nobody really wanted. They barely even use him either, so why not make him useful? I took a lot of inspirations from other characters though, so you're gonna see that in his moveset. His primary fire, he turns his arm into a cannon and shoots those Lego blocks that you'll see him shoot in the series. So like an arm block cannon. His secondary fire, so it would be on a pretty good cooldown, but for secondary fire, he pulls people in. He can stretch his arms out and pull them in. Oh, for his E ability, I'm thinking he turns into a giant dome that hides and protects his ally. Kind of like how May can go into her little cryo egg thing, but you can do that with some of your teammates. Now, in this form, you are semi-indestructible, but obviously it has a cooldown. So for his shift ability, just put up block walls. I think that's a little obvious there. Like, he definitely took a lot of inspiration from Groot, because I can see the similarities. So just have him put up like 3 block walls. Now, for his ultimate ability, I'm thinking he can turn himself into a giant brick wall. If you've ever seen maybe Apex Legends, there's a character called Catalyst. She can put up a giant wall that her allies can go through. So I'm thinking Blocks could turn into a giant wall, blocking off half of the point. And when his allies want to go through it, it'll create a little door for them. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for today. Coming up with this stuff is really hard. And then trying to figure out which alien goes in what role, don't even get me started, man.
But I did have lots of fun. What the fuck? But I did have lots of fun coming up with all the ideas and the concept of the game. If you guys have any idea on what aliens I should put into the hypothetical game, then please share.
But anyways, I'll catch you later.